zombie fans. This is Reanimated, episode 129. My name is Stuart, and I am joined by the illegible H.A. Conrad. Hello!
Hello! What's up?
I just want to say hello and thank you. And sorry to our listeners, because we've definitely fallen off the regular podcast train a little bit, but we're still pumping them out, so stick with us for more of this content. Today we are going to be covering three things, or two, which is the Resort, which we promised we would cover. But then, since neither of us thought too much of the Resort, we also decided to start on Santa Clarita Diet. So we'll have a couple of episodes of that thrown in here too, just for some spice. And then, AJ, did you want to talk quickly about the Illinois thing?
Sure, but nothing too much in the news this week, probably because everything has now been overtaken by politics. This is in the vein of some similar things we've talked about before, and it's basically people thinking that they're very cute and putting these zombie preparedness plans in place as a way to get people to prepare for actual disaster. And that is what the state of Illinois has done. And so apparently they have declared a zombie preparedness month. And, you know, they have the usual tidbits that you would expect to see in this kind of a zombie preparedness plan. And really it's to trick you into getting a go bag together and maybe having some extra water or something. I don't know. But yeah, we'll throw a link in the show notes.
I'm just curious what they think Illinois needs to be prepped for. I mean, they do have tornadoes and I guess bad snowstorms, but they're not like an earthquake state, not a tsunami state.
Yeah, I feel like it's they haven't really named anything. They basically just named those two, tornadoes and blizzards, and that's it.
Okay.
So maybe that's their thing, and basically they just say it gives an air of levity to natural disaster planning. So there you go.
It would have to be one hell of a blizzard to need to stockpile like 2 weeks of food in this day and age, anyway. Yeah. But okay, so more government agencies
getting on the zombie bandwagon.
Yeah, exactly. And just trying to get people to pay attention to their own safety by dangling a pop culture icon in front of them. But honestly, yeah, like you said, it's better than watching the actual news right now. So, hey.
There you go. Ready to dive into the Resort?
Let's do this thing. The Resort. I don't think the budget ever got released.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Okay, so let me start by saying this movie actually had decent production value. It wasn't a really low budget CGI heavy. You know how it's like a weird combination, but you have the low budget that relies a lot on bad CGI.
Yeah.
This must have had like a medium to high budget because it also had CGI, but the CGI was pretty good.
Yeah, it was not as bad as I was expecting it to be.
It just didn't have much of a story it didn't have a good original storyline. So that was kind of where it fell apart mostly. I mean, the acting was fine. It had a decent cast.
Yeah. Mostly
noticeable with the inclusion of Doug Ray Scott, who is kind of like the, what's his name? They're both Scottish. They kind of look similar to each other. But one of them was Obi-Wan Kenobi, and his name is... Ewan McGregor. He looks a little bit like Ewan McGregor's uncle.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I could get there.
And apparently Ewan McGregor was the best man at his first wedding, which leads me to believe that everybody in Scotland who's famous is sort of friendly with each other.
Maybe.
But so Doug Ray Scott plays an American prepper, I guess, and he joins Jessica, not going to try to pronounce her last name, Dego, who is the PTSD suffering... They're all zombie survivors. They're all zombie apocalypse survivors because that's the whole plot of this film, right? This island is the last place you could find and shoot zombies left over from the zombie war that in a rare case, humans won. This is not something you hear very often, right, in this genre. So that's pretty different.
It's also, just looking at this, I know we're talking about a zombie film, so looking at it from a reality point of view, had there actually been some kind of, mass extinction event like this, no way they're going to let that island stay alive. They would have firebombed the crap out of that to wipe out any There's just no way they're going to, let any possibility of transmission be in existence.
Yeah.
But that's just
Well,
one girl's opinion.
and if they had done that, they never would have had the chance to use their moralizing against the corporate greed.
Right.
You know,
Right.
taking a page out of Romero's book.
Well, and then there's also the funny part is that, not funny, but it's just there's some interesting themes throughout this that I was laughing a little bit at if it hadn't been so, whatever. But it's there's definitely like the and very similar to 28 Days Later, where the animal rights activists basically are the ones responsible for releasing the scourge. In this,
Yeah.
the I guess I don't know what you would even call them, the zombie activists. It's
Yeah,
hard to
zombies are people too, man.
right are responsible for stupidity and for causing horrible things to happen. So it's an interesting thing that you see more often. You see it a lot in these kinds of films, and it's kind of funny because I do feel like it's the antithesis of the things that Romero was trying to do, and it takes on just a different tenor. So, or else or else the lesson is people are stupid. I don't know.
Well, nobody is really what they seem to be, or
That's
most
true.
of the people on in the cast are not what they seem to be. Well, the guy Doug Ray Scott is playing Archer.
Yeah.
He's kind of exactly what he seems to be, just a quiet zombie killing machine.
That's true.
Jessica turns out to be stronger than she thinks. She has the best, the PTSD treatment ever by coming to face to face with lots of zombies. Her boyfriend, though, turns out to be a real dirtbag, which I guess we had to expect. That was kind of the most
Obvious,
predictable
yeah.
turn. Yeah, he seems really nice, but of course he's gonna be the coward who kills other people to get away. The other two people who are basically what they seem are Alfie and Jack, the two teenagers who won a trip to the island for their video game.
They're your usual
Even though
hackery video
Yeah.
gamer type people.
Yeah, and they're kind of annoying, but it's also an interesting nod to at least the fact that that's a group of people who exist,
Yeah.
which is not often,
No.
even acknowledged. So I thought that was kind of interesting. It did strike me though that this island, even though it exists, and you think why does it exist? To me, it was like, why doesn't it have way better security? They have like this separate compound for the hotel versus the island, which has these other areas of some wandering zombies and some that are in like a shooting gallery. But it's just not, and it's all under one system. It's got all these like built-in problems. The same way that Jurassic Park did in this movie is nothing if not a complete ripoff of Jurassic Park.
Right.
But it's frustrating that it's like as soon as the virus goes live and like security systems fail, the compound is overrun in minutes.
Yeah, like it seem as if there was a lot of thought put into into the fail safes here. And I think, okay, so even when we were first talking about this, and this is what pretty much everybody has reviewed it as, including the gents over at Bloody Disgusting, is that it's Jurassic Park with zombies. And part of me was hoping that there would be, yes, that would be sort of the broad strokes that this movie was based upon, but that they would have come up with their own kind of unique ideas where a scenario like this would work or how it would work. And I was definitely disappointed in how not thought out this was and how kind of ridiculous and quickly they got overrun.
Yeah,
Because it's not like they don't. It's not like they don't know. I mean, clearly they know the enemy. Do you know what I mean? So,
Right.
so it's not like any other zombie films where part of the beginning of the film is about people discovering that there's a zombie outbreak. There's been the zombie outbreak, so you absolutely know what's going on here, making it, to me anyway, just totally implausible that this is how they would set up the island. But I guess you have to have drama somewhere, but that to me it wouldn't have taken all that much to make this a little bit more interesting.
I would just want a little more creative writing to make it a little harder
Right.
for this. I have no problem with the zombies overtaking the compound. That has to
Of
happen. That is a
course.
plot device that has to happen. But it should have taken longer and been more interesting.
Right.
Instead, it's like three shamblers break out of their containment, and then within seconds they're in the control room.
Right.
I
Which
mean,
is
maybe
like,
we're like not seeing the whole chronology, but
I don't know.
it's
It
nuts.
maybe something edited, somebody edited, and there was something on the editing room floor that explains this a little bit better. But I
Yeah.
agree. I think it just feels a little too easy and convenient, I guess is the word that I
Well,
would
there's a
probably
lot of
use.
convenient things
Yeah,
start happening too, like Tom Nevins, the poor guy who was the only one whose last name we really even know on the
I
show.
know.
The driver for our group of heroes, like his car is broken down, of course, on the night of the
Yep.
great collapse. Uh, Thing after thing after thing goes wrong, and then but our crew manages to find a way back to the docks despite this impending doom of the island's going to get obliterated. And then we find out that the corporation behind the resort is actually making new zombies out of refugees, which is the most horrendous thing you could imagine. This is very Romero to me. This is the
Yeah.
same sort of, yeah, it's corporate greed, it's class, it's we got a lot of those familiar themes going on. Most for the most part, they're not presenting the stuff in a new or particularly interesting way. So it doesn't do anything to make itself stand out from
Right.
those films that have come before it. That at the end of the day, that's kind of it.
It's tired. The writing is definitely not anything that is inspiring, and even with um, even with sort of the whole theme around Melanie sort of developing as like this, I guess, hero. She's just a very weak character in general, and very tropey, and just not. To me, it's like, come on, man, you've definitely got some big shoes to fill in this category, and you could have done it a lot better. And even with her confrontation when she finally confronts her like horrible boyfriend, it's I don't know. It's just a very thin and tired plot line. I'll admit to you, it took me like it was hard for me to get through this because I was just so bored watching it.
So you wanted her to be more like an Ellen Ripley or a Sarah Connor type hero heroine.
Not necessarily like them, but at least grow a spine a little bit earlier. Like it was a little bit too oh I'm so like helpless, and oh I'm suffering from this thing, because it's not like it's just not used in a way that I found interesting. That's all. I
Hmm.
don't need anybody like, come on, well, let's face it, there's nobody like Ellen Ripley.
No,
But man, she's awesome.
or Sarah
Or
Connor.
Sarah Connor. But like I don't, and that's the thing. I feel like we could see more like female leads like that. But I mean, and again, understanding that this is the kind of film we're talking about. This was a limited release. I agree with you. I don't know what their budget was, but their special effects tell me that it's bigger than I would suspect people might think it is. I just feel like some of that money could have been put toward plot development, character development, and even some of the conflict between the characters, like the ne'er do well boyfriend who turns out to be a coward. I mean, as you said, you can see that coming from a mile away. And there is fun with some of these tropes when you see them in films. There's fun in knowing what's going. Like in some ways, like I know that guy's going to be a total wanker, but there's an interesting way to do it, and I don't feel like they did that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know that I would recommend this to anybody. I did have one like question or talking point that I was curious what you thought about it. So during the film, they show several different zombies as basically former resort workers, like they're dressed in the uniform, and one
Hmm.
significantly is brought out to show like the guests, oh, this is what we do here, and she's kind of like tortured by the CEO woman, whatever her name is. So I guess my question is if, like, I'm not sure that a place like this would even run if there was any question that there were new infections, and clearly there were. So, like, what were your thoughts on this? I was kind of like, wow, that's kind of a strange thing to be highlighting. And would this person actually highlight the fact that some of their workers had been killed by the zombies? I don't know. It was,
Oh, I did not see that as a worker uniform so much as their zombie uniform. Like, yeah, all their zombies were wearing the same clothes,
yeah,
at least the ones in the compound. And they had the oven to make them look older, so they were trying to hide the fact that they were making new
true, true.
zombies. I think they did enough story-wise to cover that up.
All right, that's fair.
But I mean, only to like a surface level. If there had been any regulation at all,
Right.
somebody would have figured this out pretty quickly.
Well, but
Because
also,
how do they even get
well,
refugees
I was
from the
gonna say,
refugee camp to the island?
and it's
You
like
know?
an entire camp. Like we're talking
Yeah.
like hundreds of people
Yeah.
that they brought over here. Nobody's gonna notice that they're suddenly gone. I don't know. That was a little
So
weird.
they ask you to suspend that disbelief, and oh, fine, I'll do it because they made at least the surface level effort to say, oh, look how well they hid this. And you literally just go underground about a few feet, and then you find the hidden secrets. So fine, whatever. It's not an inspirational film. It's not gonna change your life. And you're saying you wouldn't recommend it. I still would be like, hey, you know what? Yeah, check it out. It's on Netflix. It's just like Jurassic Park, and you know,
I guess I wouldn't. Okay, I would recommend it if you want something stupid on in the background, but I don't think it's something you need to seek out or pay attention to.
okay.
So, there you have
And
it.
on that note, let's go to Santa Clarita Diet. So this show came up on Netflix early in February. It's got star power for sure.
Yep.
I mean, you got in the first episode. I wasn't expecting to see. Man, why my brain is not awake. I'm sorry, but who's the guy who's Conan's right hand man?
Oh,
Conan
Andy
O'Brien.
Richter.
Andy Richter. Wasn't expecting to see him.
Yep.
And we've got Nathan Fillion, as well as Timothy Olyphant and fill in the blanks. The female lead, whose name I
Drew
can never
Barrymore.
remember. Drew Barrymore. God,
Wow.
not awake.
Well,
Hey, I can remember
you were
Ellen
up
Ripley and Sarah Connor, but
You were up pretty early, and also not to mention that the first couple of episodes were directed by Ruben Fleischer of Zombieland fame.
oh, didn't know
Yeah.
that.
And then Victor Fresco, he was the writer for these first couple of episodes. Do you watch Better Off Ted?
Better Off Ted.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen a few episodes of that. That was a while ago, right? That show.
Yeah, but if you're into that kind of style of writing, it made a lot of sense to me because I didn't look at this before I watched the first couple of episodes. But I'm like, this totally makes sense.
Yeah.
So,
So you've seen the entire run.
I
right?
have.
And I've seen the first two. We're going to talk about the first two. Impression wise, I wanted to laugh more at this show, and it just wasn't happening.
See, I laughed a lot. I feel like I think that the chemistry between Drew Barrymore and Tim Oliphant was great. I also very, very much liked the kid, the stepson. Who was he? Eric.
Oh God, he's amazing. Yeah, he was in the most recent Lampoon road trip movie, and he was great in that. He's kind of playing the same character, the mega awkward teenager.
Yeah.
But he's the highlight for sure.
Yeah, I like his relationship or his interactions with Abby, the daughter, who's played by Liv Hewson. And I felt like the writing, I mean, it's supposed to be, it's pushing the edge. It's like very silly but also dark. I really loved it. There's definitely throughout the run some weaker episodes, and I don't think that they ended on a strong note. But I liked.
Wait, for the whole season, you didn't like the way it ended, or just talking about episode 2?
The whole season. But, I'm not sure how much you want to actually do with this. So just kind of giving my overall impression. But these first episodes, especially the first one, I really I liked it a lot. It reminded me a little bit of almost like a Stepford Wives / Pleasantville meets a zombie flick. It had a little bit of what was the film that we reviewed with the Canadian zombie film with Billy what's his name, Scottish dude.
Yeah, Fido, I think.
Had a little bit of a Fido vibe to it.
Yeah. Sure. Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like Weeds with zombies.
Yeah.
These Southern Californian, like, this is a subdivision in Southern California. It isn't everything great, but we've got a terrible secret. One of these. You're saying that you enjoyed the chemistry between Timothy Olyphant and Drew Barrymore, and I would be opposed to that.
Okay.
I think, and I don't know if it's the writing or what, but I just feel like they were reciting lines to each other, but I never really felt like they were talking to each other. And I don't know what that's like an amorphous thing. I don't know how you're supposed to, qualify that, but it never really felt to me like they were doing anything other than reading a script. And they're good actors, so I don't know where that was coming from, but I just wasn't able to get invested.
For me, I felt like there was a lot of subtext going on behind what they were saying, and I do think that this is a commentary on, maybe a relationship where people can't say everything that they're trying to say, so they're covering it up with niceties. I mean, I think that this is, to me, it was a commentary on some of the things happening today, and you see people on social media being like, everything's great, and it's not, and they're going through like horrible crap. And so I kind of felt like that's where they were going with it, and I thought they played it well. But this is why, we talk about this stuff, I guess, to have the differing opinions.
Yeah, I guess I started to like it more when Timothy Olyphant started to loses his cool, his character, when he starts cursing more and is starting to freak out more.
Yeah.
Then it starts to feel a little more real. But when they do the saccharine realtor shtick, I don't dig that.
Yeah. Well.
And that's a lot of the first two episodes is they're trying to sell a house, right?
Right.
In the parts I would say that I came closest to laughing were Nathan Fillion scenes, because the man.
Oh, he's amazing.
I just have way too much respect for him, and he's a funny dude. And even though he plays a complete dick,
but that's the thing.
Still yeah.
He manages to play a dick really, really well. It's amazingly, like, he's just so slimy and horrible and awesome. So I enjoyed that part of it. I was sad that he exited the show so quickly.
You could see the writing on the wall as soon as he started saying his lines.
I know, but I was hoping, because I adore him. But I felt like the family unit of Joel and Sheila and Abby, I find that to be interesting, and I really liked it in these episodes, because they are not talking, they are disjointed, and they're all kind of coexisting in their normal way, and then this whole little, I don't know what you would even call it, this bump in the road, so to speak, is forcing them to take a different tack. So that's what I kind of liked. I personally enjoyed these episodes, and I think that the first part of it, I may have felt the same as you, but then I really got into it after the second one.
Well, I'm going to continue watching it for sure, but I just wanted to at least put it out there that
that's fair.
Not on board yet, and it's going to need to ratchet up some. I don't know what exactly, but I had something, but I've lost it. I lost the thing that was in my head. What else we like or hate about this show?
Well, I do think it is of note, which, as you know, Bill does not generally like to watch this stuff with me, and he happened to start watching it as I was starting the series, and he actually got hooked to it. So
that's crazy. Holly watched my wife watched the first show with me yesterday, the first episode, and then the Drew Barrymore puking scene happens, and she's like, "Well, okay, I don't know how you watch these things," and she watched to the end, but she was like, "I'm done."
Bill tapped out at that scene, and then watched the rest of it and was like, "Okay." And there's definitely some points during the rest of the series where he has to like leave the room or avert his eyes. But for the most part, he was really into it and watched the whole thing. And I didn't have to like, you know, force him to, which is normally what happens. Force him to by virtue of him being in the same room with me. So just, throwing that out there. I liked the idea that you don't necessarily know what's caused this, and obviously that's going to be a point during the story.
That was the thing I was going to bring up, is that they don't even question that until the second episode.
Right.
And like a good length into the second episode, she's like, I wonder why this is happening to me. And I'm kind of like, well, that's why you have your exposition expert in the form of Eric.
Yeah. And I loved,
what he's there to tell
seriously, the whole interaction between them and Eric was amazing. Like his questioning and his sort of assessment of the situation. Just adore that kid. This actor was also, I was trying to place him because I knew like that he had to be from somewhere, and he plays, he's like a regular on the show Psych, or was a regular. He played young Sean Spencer in the flashbacks. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad that this guy is getting I did not see the National Lampoon, so I didn't know he was in that, but I'm glad he's getting some parts because he's good. But
yeah, it's Vacation is the National Lampoon. It's Ed Helms, Christina Applegate, and he's their son, and then they have another son. He's amazing in that. It's not like that movie's not going to change your life either, but he's with that cast, they work really well together. So.
Well, the nerdy nerd inside of me and the nerd that I was growing up really relates to Eric. So and especially his crush on his neighbor. So like that was a good little bright spot in this whole series. But I think that part of the whole thing that I find interesting as well is like the Sheila's lack of filter after this whole thing happens, and her impulse control is really funny, and I find it hilarious. And
it's definitely a different take on manifestation of zombie traits, right? She's just hungry and horny, and just swears at people a lot, and doesn't have, like you said, has no filter anymore. But it's certainly not what we expect for canon, and we knew this wasn't going to be a canon zombie show right. when we came into it. But whenever you depart from that, I guess it is just kind of like all bets are off. We'll have to see what they decide to do.
Right, and I'm okay with what they've decided to do, and I like that it's they kind of have made it this way because it makes for interesting plot lines, and also the interactions between her and her husband, because in some ways he's like, okay, I'm on board with all this, all this this sexual appetite and your libido and all this stuff. I'm totally on board with that. With the killing, not so much, but yet he kind of stays on board and has this whole philosophy that they're in it together, even though he's definitely freaking out. So.
I do like the fact that episode 2 is We Can't Kill People, and episode 3 is called We Can Kill People.
Right. It's really it's really good.
That's just funny there right by itself.
And trying to figure out what they're going to do, and they're also super awkward about it. So I like that the writing doesn't make this like. In some ways, it seems like an easier transition in their heads than it should be, but just trying to actually execute this, trying to find Sheila her meals is something that becomes a difficulty, and they suck at it. In the way that you would expect people who were like living in suburbia to suck at something like this. So I like that reality of it, but.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I guess they don't go straight to murdering people either. They try to go to the morgue, and he spends $500 on a foot.
Yeah, and
maybe it was a whole body.
I also like their interaction with the mortician or whatever he was. He wasn't actually he was just sort of like an assistant, wasn't he?
I think he's just the guy who wheels the bodies around. Yeah.
So that was kind of funny.
They've had every cast member who's come in who's interacted with our core group has actually been really good. Like, you got your cameos from Nathan Fillion. You've got Patton Oswalt as a virologist. The next door neighbors, even though their interactions are bizarre and they're just like cursing at each other and then peeling out of the driveway.
Right.
Everybody, I guess if you commit to this universe of like weird dialogue where people don't talk like normal people and they don't have normal emotional reactions to things.
Right.
If you buy into that entirely, then everything is perfect with this show because they've done a good job of. But I think I have a problem when I'm trying to watch a show that is supposed to be about zombies and they want me to think I'm too limited in my thinking about this, because if this had been a show about anything else, I think I would be enjoying it more.
I don't know. I think that was precisely why I enjoyed it, was because they did put it into this weird kind of not shiny, but just a very a very limited universe, and the fact that people aren't reacting normally, it's definitely twisted a bit. I was enjoying that part of it, that aspect of it. And some of the sort of ridiculousness. I do like the fact that they live between two cops, and the cops hate each other, or the sheriff and the cop, I guess.
Yeah.
And the Tim Oliphant line is like, why couldn't we live between dueling pastry chefs?
I actually do live between two chefs, but they're not rivals.
And they're not pastry chefs?
They're just normal chefs.
Nice.
Chefs. Yeah.
Do they make you food?
They did when we had our second child. We had some nice snacks.
That's good. That's a good benefit.
But I feel a little bit like I'm not bringing enough to the scenario, because I'm like, do you want a free newspaper or?
maybe you should start making beer or spirits or something like that.
That is exactly what I thought, actually. I do have a home brewing kit, and so I think I need to start making beer, and then I can be part of the
community.
The community better, yeah. Nice little aside.
Nice. I don't want to ruin the rest of the series for you if you actually decide to move on to
No,
it.
I'll watch it. So yeah, just let's not talk more about it. I will get there. Okay, so thank you for listening to this episode. We covered the resort, we covered the first two episodes of Santa Clarita Diet, and we're going to keep on keeping on with Santa Clarita Diet for our next episode. So join us again then, and you can reach us in the meantime at reanimatedpodcast.com, reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com, and on the tweets at reanimatedpcast. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, folks. Ciao.
Bye.
That was a creepy bye, dude.